Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Capricorn. Let's do this. Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of September 2025. I hope you're well. I'm using the Tarot of the Divine for you today. Now, before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is via one of the links in the description box below. You're looking for the link that takes you to Selfie. Or alternatively, you can come join us over on Circle. There you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost, and if you choose to bump up a tier, you can come participate in the live classes that we run over there too, in all sorts of modalities, and there's a fabulous community. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link. So Capricorn, let's get straight on and see what's going on with you, because I feel like this month's a big one for you. I think it's a big one for everyone actually, but it seems to be taking a very different path with each person, with each sign. Tell me about recent past for Capricorn, please. Thank you. We have the Five of Pentacles. Not an ideal card, but we've got to start somewhere, right? What about current energy for Capricorn, please? Ooh. Wow, okay. So we have the Five of Swords, the Star, and the Eight of Wands. Now, I am actually going to take this Eight of Wands and I'm going to put it here because that's the first card that I saw when the cards came out. It's the first one that I looked at. And then these two fell out as well. And I like the combination of the energies that we're seeing there. What about what's coming towards Capricorn for September? Sorry, something's just fallen off. Something, I don't even know what it is. Two of Cups, right, okay, we have the Page of Swords at the bottom of the deck here. Now the Two of Cups in your September position suggests that relationships are going to be really quite important, probably a defining theme for you actually over the course of this month. But first, there are a few things that we need to kind of struggle our way through first. Now, Capricorn, I know that 2025 has been a little rough on you. I know that. And really, it sort of started around December, but I think it's been a bit of a roller coaster rather than an overt tower sort of situation. But it feels like a lot of this information that's been coming through to you is coalescing now at this point in September, where we've kind of gone through what we needed to go through, we've seen what we needed to see, and now, maybe the retrograde helped you do this. We're starting to put things together to realise what is missing. Because certainly the Page of Swords at the bottom of the deck would suggest that you are looking for information. If you haven't been doing it already, you're certainly starting to do it now. Because just like I kind of draw a string bag and you pull the string and it just magically comes together. It's not magic, right? But it comes together. It feels like there's a synthesis point here for you in September where everything starts to make sense, which, to be fair, would be highly logical given that we have just been through a Mercury retrograde that finished in August. Was it the 11th? I think it stationed direct, 11th of August. But then there was the 2-week cool down period, and I don't know about you, but I felt like that Mercury energy was very much ongoing while the shadow period was kind of cooling the energy of the planet down. I don't even know if that's the right way to describe it actually, but quite often it's not during the retrograde that we get the insight. It's sometimes when it's finished we can start putting things together. New insights are gained, we've tidied things up, we've done all the usual, Mercury retrograde stuff, but then we come to a point where what does it all mean? Now, I don't think that you have quite all of the information that you need yet, but I do wonder if it's perhaps the relationships that are playing the biggest part in terms of that synthesis point that I was talking about for you. Because the Page of Swords would represent the continuous search for information so as to expand one's position, at least mentally, in terms of the way that we see reality and all those kinds of things. But if we were straight up in a process of passing that information, PARSE rather than PASS, then I would expect to see the Queen of Swords instead, and she's not there. And we certainly don't see the King of Swords, where we are actioning anything, either making decisions about, you know, what we now understand. It's still early doors, but it's definitely a distinct move in the right direction. I would like to get some cards out on the table before I say any more. So let's have a look at this Five of Pentacles. Why is that here? We have the Queen of Wands. We have the Five of Cups, and we have the Knight of Cups as well. Definitely something about consequence there. Tell me about the Eight of Wands, Five of Swords, and the Star, which I have to say is incredibly hopeful and beautiful. Yeah, there we go. Page of Swords again. We've got Six of Wands. So I'll have a little look here. Let's get one more for this. That's two, but we'll take them. Five of Swords again. So we've got double Five of Swords in the same plot. And the Three of Wands. And then tell me about this Two of Cups. What does Capricorn need to know about the Two of Cups? Whoa. Okay, we have... I'm not going to take all of these. It's absolutely ludicrous. We've got the Page of Wands, the Seven of Swords, whatever that was, Knight of Wands, Ten of Wands, Hermit, Magician. I mean, this seems to me to speak to a process, and I would be very mindful about trying to run before you can walk, given what we see here. I mean, there is a synthesis point that will be arrived at, and this is not something that you should rush. It's that's very clear. I mean, the Hermit would be putting the slow down on that, but also the Ten of Wands to an extent. Like, you run the risk of overburdening yourself this month if you try and rush the process that you can feel is starting to come to some sort of culmination, you know. I mean, that was Two of Cups on that. No, that was the Knight of Pentacles down there. We'll pull that up in a second. There's that Seven of Swords again. We've got the Seven of Pentacles now at the bottom of the deck. Let me just grab that card for you. Oh. Took my kids to a football, just like an afternoon football thing, and I joined in on the warm-ups. So I was pegging it around the field. And I was delighted because I actually had the energy to peg around a field, but I regret. Now, don't regret, it feels great, but I'm a bit stiff. So, we've got the Knight of Pentacles and the Seven of Swords here. But these two cards fell out while I was trying to get the clarifiers. Now, I'm mentioning this because although generally speaking, I do not take cards that fall to the right. It's an arbitrary rule, but it's one that I generally live by. I do think there is a side issue here for some Capricorns in terms of relationships that they have with their mothers. If it's mother wound stuff that's coming up, something like that. I mean, there's an opportunity to bust through some issues here. They will require a great deal of in the first instance, self-compassion, self-awareness, self-love, all those kind of things, right? Because I don't think that you can make any headway in this relationship unless you are rocking those attributes yourself. For some of you, you might well be there. For some of you, you may not. But it could be that it's a sideline issue, that any problems that you've had within relationships are at the root of it something to do with the relationship that you've had with your mother. So I'm bringing that up there. It's not for all of you, but it is for some of you. So I'm going to pop those to the side. Let's see my hand. I burned my hand actually really quite badly last week. And I'm not even sure at this point how I did it. In so much I was straining something out of a saucepan that had just been on the hob. And then somehow just like pressed it onto my hand. I mean, like, why? I didn't mean to, I just did. And I've got an aloe vera plant on the table, so I just went and got the aloe vera and I pulled open a leaf and just smeared myself with aloe vera gel about 4 times over the course of an hour. And then I just left it because I forgot about it. And it's healed extraordinarily well, but now I look like I've got a skin condition because I was very, very tanned, and the skin that's come through is not tanned. So anyway, the upshot of that is, if you don't have an aloe vera plant in your house, you should absolutely fucking have one, because I was very, very worried about that burn when I first did it. And I went from that to like 2 hours later forgetting that I'd burnt it at all. Anywho, a very good bit of triage kit to have in your house. I do think that I want to be clear here, when I'm talking about relationships, what I am not talking about is the material reality of you and another person sharing a house or sharing your life, or you getting together with someone or anything like that, right? We're not talking about the love TM relationship type deal, although that may well be coming into it somewhere. This is more about what is happening within you and what it is opening you up to. And I want to make that very, very clear, because the kind of internal work that I can see going on here is not actually for the benefit of another, I don't think. I think this is very much for the benefit of yourself, and it should be at this point. I want to make that really clear too. But I think one of the things that you've come to the conclusion of is that there is a desire for connection. Now, in order for that connection to occur, it's not that you have to meet the right person, it's that you have to be in the right state to meet the right person. And that might well be why, referencing mother wound issues may be a critical component of what it is that you are trying to do for yourself here. But these cards here in September speak to a certain amount of success in what it is that you're trying to do. Now, this could be, like I said, this could be the improvement of a relationship that you have with your mother. It could be recognizing that your mother wound plays itself out in lots of different relationships that you have that may not be your most close, intimate sexual relationships. It could be relationships that you have with friends, with work colleagues, whoever, There is a transition of state from closed to really quite open here, but there's a journey along the way that's gone on. So for me, the Queens, as I mentioned about the Queen of Swords, right, that they help us understand. Now, in the Queen of Swords case, she helps us process a great deal of information and work out what we think about something. Then by the time she hands that over to the King of Swords, the King of Swords is then ready and decently prepared to make some sort of decision off the back of that. When it comes to the Queen of Wands, it's more about understanding the underlying motivations for the actions that we do take, for the behaviours that we exhibit, right? So if the King of Wands is the things that we do, the Queen of Wands, to put it very simplistically, would be the underlying drivers that motivate us to go do the things that we do. So to have her come up underneath the Five of Pentacles is a very interesting position to be in indeed. Not least because it's one of 1, 2, 3, 4 cards numbered 5 that are on the table. Now, in the Minor Arcana, any card that is numbered 5 has this instability associated with it. The instability of something that was secure and stable, and possibly we're almost oblivious to the runnings of. Think about how many problems in adulthood in terms of perspective and stuff like that can be traced back to childhood absorption, almost like the things that we absorb and don't question when we're kids, and then play out in patternings when we're older. So we've got instability around thinking, instability around emotions, and instability around things that we value, things that support us, whatnot, right? Because the Pentacles for me are not simply solely money. It can be that, but you would be surprised how many times money issues eventually end up coming back to something like self-worth or something like that, right? It's an expression of value, but it's not the expression of value. So Pentacle is, for me, something that can be invested. When you've got an unstable energy around something that represents investment, ultimately what we're coming down to, in my humble opinion, is the idea that needs are not being met. And that's quite likely because we have decided that something else was what we needed, right? Maybe we decided that money would make everything great. because we didn't have any. So we worked really, really hard only to find that once we got there, it was emotionally empty, right? Or it could be that there was a certain person that we were completely fucking obsessed with, and if we got together with that person, then everything would just be rosy hereafter. And then you get together with that person isn't what you idolized. Instead, that person is just another fucking person who is as flawed as you are, right? That whole falling off the pedestal thing can be quite difficult, but we can see it in lots of other ways as well. I mean, there could be a question here of like, to what extent have you been taking care of your physical body, Capricorn? Have you been abandoning it? Have you been eating properly? Have you been drinking lots of water? Have you been exercising? You know, these things we can see in the Five of Pentacles, saying like, we are depleted, we're really fucking low, and it's because we've been trying to address needs that weren't core. They weren't really needs, actually. Perhaps they were wants, for sure, desires, possibly, but they weren't needs. So now we have the Queen of Wands and the Five of Pentacles saying, why have we done things that have led us to this point where now we recognize that this is unstable, it's unsupported, it's lonely, perhaps we feel shut out of a situation, or we have abandoned our own basic needs, which could be, you know, quite physical and material, such as exercise or nutrition or whatnot, or just being together with people. Because I feel for you, Capricorn, this is not a question of I'm waiting for Mr. Right or Mrs. Right to come along. I feel like this is a more generalized idea of community and connection and being seen and being with other people, being capable of being supported by other people and participating in the support of other people. There's something, it seems to me, that you're recognizing has been very, very closed about you. And first off, I don't think that you're keen to allow that to continue for much longer, because once you see something, you don't generally unsee it. But you're looking for more information about this so as to be able to fix it, because ultimately Capricorn is a very solution-oriented thinker when it comes to this sort of thing. Right? You've got a lot of disposes at your resource, a lot of resources at your disposal, and you're very good at problem solving. So to find yourself in a place where what you need, resources that you should be able to put your hands on, like time, care, effort, love, support, and mayhaps even money, to find them not present can be quite destabilizing from an identity point of view, right? And then we've got another 5 here. We've got an emotional instability where we're recognizing, and I think this is the point of the matter, Capricorn, is that you are recognizing where you have stuck somewhere, whether through bereavement, grief, loss of any sort. And this could be, you know, literal loss through bereavement, people passing away, but it could be divorce. It could be even things like empty nest syndrome and things like that, right? Where we're stuck in this grieving state and we have not recognized that this is a process to move through. And everything that's been going on with us emotionally inside has been colouring not only the way that you see the world, but also the extent to which, well, the influence on the decision that you make, right? The whole sense of what you do and why. You see how all of these cards are all talking to each other. But the Knight of Cups being here feels to me to be a breakthrough, because it's about offering one's cup. It is about being of service. It is Pisces energy, and the North Node is currently in the sign of Pisces. So we're all kind of feeling the pull to be dragged towards that. And what Pisces does really well is be in the middle of everything, you know, sometimes to a fault, because sometimes they lose their sense of self in the process. But nevertheless, Pisces do really, really well in groups of people. Don't have to be huge groups of people, just groups of people. Pisces likes not to have to make decisions about things. Pisces wants everybody to be happy, and if everybody's happy, they are a happy little sunbeam. Yeah, like I said, there can be problems with that, but we'll not go into that too much here. So the Knight of Cups feels to me like it's actually a bit of a breakthrough for you, because there is something that is opening up here. And it's opening up in response to seeing where you are, right now, because both of these are representing, I think, the way that you see the situation that you're in. Maybe you're feeling isolated, maybe you're feeling alone, maybe you're feeling unsupported. But rather than doubling down on that energy and saying, poor me, you're like, how did that happen? I'm sure it wasn't always like that. Like, what life choices have led me to a place where I feel like this? What life experiences have happened to me that I have not fully processed, such that this grief, this sense of loss, whatever it is that I've had going on, has been part of the decision making process. Instead of working through it and releasing it and letting it go, it's now becoming a dominant force. This cracking open that is represented by the Knight of Cups is saying, actually, I don't want this. I really don't want this. I want to be connected. I want to be a part of things. And I recognise now that I need to open up, and maybe I need to do things differently in order for that to be the case. Now, when we come into your current energy, it really does look like this is escalating somewhat in terms of deepening in terms of your understanding. And I shall tell you for why, because the star card for me means many things. It talks about healing, it can talk about the sign of Aquarius and whatnot, but for me it is the card of connection, right? In whatever version of the star you've got, 7 times out of 10, it's going to be a person either looking up at a star or reaching for a star, right? It talks about highest hopes, goals, dreams and aspirations and all that sort of stuff, but it is the connection betwixt person and star that makes me think that what it represents is actually hope. It's a return of hope. Because I used to talk about this a lot when I first started the channel. I haven't mentioned it in a while, right? So for me, when you say, I followed my guiding star, right? Or you look at any, myth from long ago, which talks about guiding stars. What we're actually saying in that moment is not necessarily that we quite literally followed a star. Sometimes the stories say that, but they are not always literal. What we're saying is I looked up at this celestial body and I felt such a sense of trust and faith that it was with me. I felt so connected to it that I would follow that, metaphorically, literally, wherever it would take me, right? There is a depth of connection there. That's what the star talks about. And for somebody who has been feeling isolated and alone and trying to work out how they got there, a return of hope that says connection is possible is a really beautiful sign. But it's cranking things up because we've got double 5 of Swords here. So the thought processes that have been making the decisions for us, which may or may not have been self-sabotaging, but then, there's a bit of you that wanted the outcome that it got. So was it really even self-sabotage? It's conscious mind sabotage by your unconscious mind. But is it really, truly self-sabotage? Who knows? We understand that we've got a double dose here of our thinking has been a little bit wonky because the things that have underpinned it emotionally and by way of investment have not created the correct foundation for good, straight, linear thinking, which we like generally, to occur. The 5 of Swords can talk about things like narcissism. It can talk about Pyrrhic victories. I mean, it could be, Capricorn, that you are starting to realise slowly that perhaps maybe you have some sort of mother wound that has been caused by having a narcissistic mother. I mean, maybe the realisation is that you are the narcissistic parent, and that's quite interesting, or that you have CPTSD from your relationship with your mother, which can very much manifest as having narcissistic type traits at points. The point is that instability around the thought processes is getting an injection of energy from the 8 of Wands, which is Mercury in Sagittarius. So Mercury is bringing us information. I really hate the phrase downloads. There's something very digital about it, and I don't like that when we're talking about the human brain. But I do know that Uranus in Gemini has been firing up a lot of people's brains to think differently over this past, few weeks that he has been there. I've absolutely experienced that myself, and I think you are starting to see that too, because this stream of information that seems to be coming from somewhere that you're not sure where, right? Maybe it's coming from the divine, maybe it's coming from God, maybe it's coming from your higher self, right? Maybe it's coming from source, the universe. I mean, take whatever terminology you like. What it seems to be doing is bringing in the information that you are looking for, double page of swords, and depositing it directly into your brain so you can see how your thinking has led you to make decisions that have had you end up in a place where you did not ever want to be. Never really saw yourself there, right? Now, the reason for doing that is to show you that what needs to be changed is actually relatively simple. It is relatively straightforward. One might say with the Six of Wands being here, which is Jupiter in Leo, that a lot of the hard work actually for you has already been done. What we've got going on here is that last push where you see where the thinking wasn't straight, where the thinking wasn't true. What it is that you've been deceiving yourself about potentially, or what you didn't see before that now maybe you do see, so that you are able to not only begin the process of moving, of behaving differently. Remember, the Queen of Wands over here was trying to work out why we did things the way that we did. She was very clear about that. We're looking for more information, we're getting the information. And what's the point? The point is so that we can change the behaviour. And it's something I drummed into my children from being very, very, very young. And they repeat it like a mantra sometimes. An apology without changed behaviour is simply manipulation. Right? And we've all used that to keep each other to account as much as anything else, but it has also helped them see where situations that they have been in maybe fall into the realm of manipulation rather than a genuine apology or a genuine desire for change, right? Now, I'm not accusing you of manipulating, Capricorn, but what I am saying is once you've got this information, there's no way you can't act on it. Like I said, I feel like you've done the hard work already. But I think more than anything else, you are looking to change your behaviour, because that is the key. Change your behaviour, change your actions, change your decisions. I mean, the Three of Wands is what we do outside of us, off the back of what we considered to be our options inside of us. If your head has been wonky, these two cards here, if your heart has been wonky, via the Five of Cups here, if what you have invested in is actually not something that was going to give you anything at all, and all of this has come off the back of a particular way of doing things that you have had, then it would make sense to me that you would want to change it, and want to change it so that the possibility, the potential for connection, the potential for healing, and the potential for that open connection built in trust and faith could happen. This is not about changing everybody else, it's about changing you and almost retuning your frequency to something a lot higher, Capricorn. Like I said, I feel like you've been doing a lot of this work for the whole of 2025. And although you aren't necessarily where you want to be right now, I think it is entirely possible that you're starting to orientate towards something that is much more meaningful for you, right? Because the energy of September is the Two of Cups. Now, some readers will see this in a very, very straightforward, very flat way, which is that it's about somebody new coming in. It's about a relationship. Or you're going to take your relationship to the next level, or you're going to have a relationship or something like that. But like I said, I feel like for you, Capricorn, it's much more about the ability to be able to conduct relationships on a particular level that you have not been open to. Not because you didn't want it, but I think probably more likely because you didn't know how to do it. If you didn't know how to do it, I would guess, and to be honest, this is generally a guess that's never too far from the mark for Capricorns anyway, and Capricorn ascendants. It's possibly because you don't know what it is to have unconditional love from a parent, right? That side of you was not unlocked. I might not necessarily be true right across the board, but there's something about the... Do you know what this is all about, Capricorn? It's about the ability to receive. You know, we can talk more about the Two of Cups and the Knight of Pentacles and the Seven of Swords, but ultimately that's what it comes down to. You know, you are a sign who is taught that your value is only to be found in what you produce, what you achieve, what you know, the higher goals. It's never been about you as an emotional being. It's never been about you as a being, full stop. But you have at times conflated that with your identity and your soul and what you're here to do and all that kind of thing. And I think a part of you has craved for the longest time a sense of really deep connection. But at the same time, eschewing that because that would take you away from the things that your value is embedded in, right? Which is to say the things that you do, the things that you achieve, the things that you produce, right? But I've said this a few times over the last year. It's like you've topped out where you are. And having arrived at where you are, it's empty, it's hollow, it doesn't have what you need. And you've been working on yourself a lot this year from that perspective, like, why don't I have what I need? And it comes down to the fact that you don't know how to receive anything because you've never really had it given to you. Like, that's an entire skill set that is absent from you, Capricorn. You know how to go out and work for what you want. You know how to put your nose down and grind and delay gratification and all that sort of thing. You don't know how to just receive a thing. This is the thing that's changing. And like I said, ostensibly it's changing because once you see the problem, you can't ignore it, right? You've got to do something with it. There's no point at which trying to take shortcuts creates any kind of benefit at all. And I would also, you know, remind you of what I said before. You know, don't try and rush this process, Capricorn, because it's going to happen when it happens. But I think coming down to the fundamental truth of the matter, which is that you are closed and you don't want to be anymore. And if there are some sacrifices to make along the way in terms of where you have commonly valued yourself, you know, compared to where you would like to value yourself in future, I think that you are willing to shoulder those sacrifices. It's the sort of thing that you've done forever anyway, but it's taking something that has been really meaningful and important to you, but is now empty. And it's going, well, I'm prepared to take a risk on doing it differently. I'm prepared to put in the work to doing it differently, because ultimately I want to improve the value of all of my relationships, not just with my spouse or my girlfriend or my boyfriend or whatever. I mean, this is a complete overhaul of the way that you do relationships, full stop. That connection that you've been craving is coming in September because you are opening yourself to it. And the way that you open yourself to it has been by way of eradicating what were falsehoods in your head, or unregulated emotions that had been repressed rather than dealt with, that were then causing, you know, a dark cloud over the way that you saw the world. This is very interesting. And it feels like a point of synthesis. So this may have felt like it's taken quite a long time to come together, but I think that when it does come together, it will be as the blink of an eye. But the biggest thing for you is, are you prepared to take the risk of opening up and then exposing your vulnerable soft underbelly? Yes, Capricorn, you do have one. Have you been uncomfortable enough in solitude, in isolation, in not feeling like a part of something, such that you would change, that you would put in the effort and take that incredible Capricorn work ethic and start putting it into relationships? I think the answer is yes, for most of you. Obviously, there are going to be some who don't. But, I mean, this is even deeper if it is that you have recognised that it is a mother wound that has caused this kind of fracture within you that stops you from relating to people. I mean, you've got the option of healing several things simultaneously here, Capricorn, and I wonder if that's why it feels like the month is so big. Because you can heal your relationship with your mother without actually having to get back in touch with your mother and, you know, loudly and verbally, you know, forgive her and all that kind of thing. I mean, that's something that happens in here. It's a question of whether you want to keep carrying that wound around or not. But then by extension, you know, if you're sorting out that part of you, you're healing that relationship with your mother in one way or another, and you are then healing your relationship with yourself, and you are allowing yourself to lean into what is absolutely an aspect of your personality, which is watery, because you are a sea goat, right? You can cross two different elements here. Then the thing that you're really looking for is right there. It's right in front of you. It's entirely possible. Even relationships that are long-standing can be overhauled and improved, taken to the next level this month. And that's with anyone. It's not just intimate sexual relationships. That can be friendships. That can be familial relationships. And perhaps, you know, cousins or brothers or sisters. You know, wherever there feels that degree of estrangement that you don't want. Whether you are officially estranged or not, or whether there is just kind of like a wall between you and you don't know how to get through it. I think a lot of the energy this month is supporting you in helping break through that into something very fucking meaningful indeed. Hi shit. Right. I'm going to go to the extended now. You're very welcome to join me if you would like to do so. You can do that on Selfie, you can do that on Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. The links for both are down in the description box below. And we're going to go and have a look at this and see. We're just going to see what you need to know. Right? We'll just leave it at that. We won't prejudge anything. So, know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.